Howdy, howdy, howdy. Good Monday to all of y'all. We're going to give it just a few minutes to let people come on board, find the channel, and get started. But I hope all of y'all are doing fantastic. Welcome to Cliff Notes. Post Big Brother. We're all through with Big Brother. I'm still finding that kind of amazing. So let's see. Welcome. Now we're trying. I knew it was going to take a few minutes for everything to get through the platforms and stream back to YouTube and all that. But welcome, guys. Howdy. Let me see if now my comments are showing up as well. I'm trying to set this up so I can see all the comments that come through, because that's what this live show is all about, right? I talk to myself enough. I'm ready to talk to y'all and hear some questions and everything else. Brian, howdy. T Green, Angie, all my friends out there. Hello to all of y'all. Carl, we'll give a few more minutes before we get started and let people come onto this YouTube. This is episode 2 on YouTube. It's episode 42 of Cliff Notes. I did the first 40 plus or minus. I think it's 40 on TV Co. And now we've moved over to YouTube. This is my second episode, so I'm still trying to figure out. But hopefully every episode I pick up just a little bit more, make a little bit more happens. I'm looking at the comments; they are coming through. They're delayed just a little bit from, I think, when y'all are posting them. So bear with me, but I'm gonna try to read through them all. But let's go ahead and get started. Yeah, I got to start off every show the way I always do. SKD143. I love my wife. I love my kids. I love all these fellow Big Brother fans. Welcome to the family. I've said before, and I will say it again. I was so focused on playing the game of Big Brother while I was in the house, and that was cool. And that's not taking anything away from that, but I had no clue that when I got out of the house, it would be so much fun getting to interact with other fans. For so long after my season had ended. Yeah, I figured I'd just go back to work and that'd be the little chapter to put in the book at the end of my life and career. But no, I have so much fun doing these shows. So thank y'all for coming, and I look forward to chatting all night. Well, not all night long, but for the next hour or so. So welcome aboard. Now, I've talked about in the past, when I did my Cliff Notes show, I always talked about this is National Whatsoever Day and things like that. Not doing that as much tonight. No slight, it is National Louisiana Day. So for all y'all Louisiana folks and my neighbors to these, happy National Louisiana Day. But I did want to change it up just a little bit because this is a huge day in history. Forget the National Whatever Day. This is a huge day in history that I bet most people aren't even aware of. Today is... this day in history, in 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. The wall fell. If you're under 30, it probably doesn't mean nearly as much to you. It's in the history books, but it's not something that you lived through, so it doesn't mean a lot. But I grew up during the Cold War. I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I grew up being told, hey, if there's a nuclear war, you're not going to have to worry about it because we'll be one of the main targets. We'll be gone before you know about it. That's the way we grew up, the Russians versus the Americans and all of that. And suddenly the Berlin Wall falls and the whole Cold War is basically over. And the world changes at that point in time. And it was so unexpected, which was incredible. So the Berlin Wall fell. Now, I've got a personal story about that. Yeah, Cliff Hogg's got a personal story about the Berlin Wall. Kind of. Here's the deal. The Berlin Wall fell, November 9th of 2020. It fell in 1989. But just a quick story, a little bit of the events that led up to the Berlin Wall falling. And this is where I have a little personal involvement. Just 2 months earlier, before the wall fell, Boris Yeltsin, who I think he was mayor of Moscow at the time, he was also a member of the Politburo. And right after the wall fell, he became president of Russia. I guess it switched from the Soviet Union to Russia. But so he was a bigwig over in Russia. And he was here in Houston visiting NASA just to see the facilities because Russia and the U.S. were both had the space programs and all. So he was here visiting. Well, as he was leaving NASA to go back to the airport to fly back home, he passed right through my neighborhood. And as he passed through, he suddenly, on the spur of the moment, decided that he wanted to stop at a local grocery store just to see what it was all about. See what a grocery store looked like here in the United States. And so his handler said, "Sure, I guess we can do that." So he stopped at a Randall's Grocery Store, which is a brand here in Houston, in Texas. And he stopped at the one that's just down the street from me. Stopped at the Randall's. The people there had like a 10-minute warning that this big wig from the Soviet Union is coming by. He stops. They get out of the car. There's not a lot of security or anything. He walks into this grocery store and he just starts looking around. He looks at the frozen foods. He looks at the produce. They said he especially liked the frozen pops, popsicles, things like that. But he spent 15, 20 minutes in the store looking around. They gathered up some little snacks to send with him as he flew back home. And according to his biography that he published a few years later, when he got back on the plane after seeing the grocery store, my grocery store, after seeing that grocery store, he got back on the plane and at that point realized that the Soviet Union had lost, that what they were doing was not treating the Russian people correctly, that the food and the availability and the quality and the quantity of what we had here in the United States as compared to what they had in Russia, there was no comparison and they weren't going to be able to keep up. And as a result, he was one of the big movers that kind of pushed within the Politburo to not get aggressive when protests and such were occurring. And next thing you know, two months later, the Berlin Wall falls. Isn't that cool? He just happens to go into a grocery store, my grocery store, sees all the groceries and says, we can't compete with this. We're done, guys. We better do something differently. And then the Berlin falls 2 months later. So anyway, just my own personal little story. I'm always amazed when I go into this grocery store that there's not a huge plaque or some kind of something put up on the wall, some kind of special area just to read about what a huge influence they had on the world history, not American history, world history, because of that grocery store. So there you go. As 31 years ago, the Berlin Wall falls, and it still amazes me. I've been to the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., and saw a piece of the wall that was still sitting there. And it was such a different world back then, before that, when it was East versus West and everything else. So there you go on that. The other thing that happened, that was 31 years ago. 51 years ago, 1969, another huge moment in history for a completely different reason, but it was a premiere of the PBS television show Sesame Street. Sunny day. I was 4 years old when it came out. My brother and I, we watched Sesame Street. Then we watched The Electric Company when it came back on earlier. Nowadays, you got 400 different channels, 30 channels of kids programming, so much access on YouTube and elsewhere. So there's so many places for kids to get educational programming and other kinds of programming as well. But so many places for kids to learn that kind of stuff. But back in 1969, you didn't have any of that. There was no program for kids entertainment, education. To come on was a big deal, and I was a part of the generation that grew up watching Sesame Street. Hey, when I was trying to learn Spanish, I watched Plazo Sesame, I think, Sesame Plaza, the Spanish version of Sesame Street, because it helped me learn the language and counting and everything else. So it's really cool. And I've been to the Middle East and watched the Middle Eastern version of Sesame Street as well. If I recall, Big Bird is green in the Middle East. I think he's green in South America as well. I guess a parrot versus I don't know, what kind of bird is Big Bird? He's a big yellow bird. But anyway, so 51 years ago, Sesame Street premiered. I'd like to think it helped kids, everyone get an education. Everyone that was at home with Dad TV was able to learn and get just that much further ahead before they got into kindergarten and such. So there you go, days in history. And I'm sure y'all are all sitting right there. We came here to talk about reality TV, Big Brother, something else. Angie said, I like Pinball Countdown on Sesame Street. I like the count. I love the count. I love the cookie. I loved a lot of them. I see Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Reagan bankrupted the Soviet Union in a lot of ways, so they definitely just couldn't keep up when it came right down to it. Balin, hate to criticize your video, but you sound like you're in a fish tank. I had that last week. Sorry, guys. I may have to do something. I'll try to do something different next week with the with my audio. Maybe I'll have a headphone on and see if that does work a little bit better. Sorry, Balin. I'm not real sure what I can do now. Let's see. Let me check the cam and mic while I'm just sitting here talking to y'all, and we'll see if anything makes a difference. Okay, any of that working any better? Because I'm just plain playing it by ear, flexibility. Cookie Monster was the best. All right, hey Balin, anyone else? If it's better, if it's worse audio, let me know. If it's the same, then I'm just gonna have to fiddle with it and leave it until next week and say sorry about that. Uh, so anyway, that's a little bit of day in history. Let's move on to some other fun topics. Well, first of all, Big Brother's through. Can y'all believe that? I am amazed that we are through with Big Brother. We've had an entire week now off. I don't know what to do with my time anymore. I'm a little bit lost. And I'm getting real quiet as I go through my notes just to see my next little area. There we go. Oh, wait. Sorry. Someone's telling me it got worse. So I'm going to change my microphone back. Sorry, guys. I'll fiddle with it. Just some things work better than other things. Okay. All right. Y'all are stuck with me for better or worse. I guess I could lean a little more forward. All right. Now, here's another story. When you go to Japan and you watch the newscast over there, that's completely opposite. When they do the newscast there, for some reason, the announcers get super close to the camera. So when they give the news, it's like this. I'm not going to try to speak Japanese, but they're very zoomed in on the cameras. I'm not going to do that. But I'm trying to get a little closer to the microphone just to see if that gets a little bit better. All right, so what's been going on? Big Brother's over. It's been over for a week. I'm still having withdrawals. I don't know what to do with all my free time. Balin says it got worse. I changed it back to the original, so hopefully that's a little bit better. It's been a week now. I've got all this free time. So with that in mind, I picked back up yesterday. I ran for the first time last night. It had been over 3 months since I ran. I was trying to run a lot. I was running every other night, and I was running 5Ks and everything else. And then Big Brother comes on. And, yeah, I got to watch the live feeds. I've got to be cheering on Nicole Anthony and David Alexander from last season. So suddenly I'm in front of the TV as much as I can. Way too much when it comes down to working out and things like that. So I ran for the first time last night. I didn't run long. I ran 2 miles. I didn't run fast. It took me 30-something minutes, I think, or close to it to run. Yeah, I think it took over 30 minutes to run those 2 miles. So there's nothing fast. There's nothing long about my running. But at least I got it there, got my feet moving again. It was nice to be running again. I'm having to pay the price for taking so much time off in front of the couch. I'm having to start all over again. But that's all right. And it was nice to run through the neighborhood with COVID and quarantines. I've been indoors way too much. So it was nice just to get out in the open road and run around and see the skies. I know some of y'all up north, it's a little bit cold. Down here, still nice. We're still in the 70s. So perfect weather for running in the middle of the night. The other good thing, the running, it helped me burn off, not all of them, I wish, helped me burn off some of the calories that I've accumulated from eating all this leftover Halloween candy from last week for Halloween. I don't know about y'all. I guess it's because of COVID and all of that. We didn't have nearly as many trick-or-treaters as we typically do, as we had anticipated, especially think it was a Saturday night. So we bought all kinds of Halloween candy. Well, the trick-or-treaters didn't come by. It's your loss. It's my game, literal game. I love the candies. I love the Reese's. I love the Milky. Well, pretty much a lot of them. I love the candy corns. I'm pretty much an equal eater when it comes to Halloween candy. I don't know what y'all's favorites are, but every year we always worry. You don't want to be the person that runs out of candy and the little kids come up and they're all looking sad when you have to give them a nickel or something instead. I've never done that. But so we always buy a little more than we need because we never seem to end up with leftover candy. I mean, once I've finished eating whatever's left, it seems to go away before too long anyway. Anthony's saying, I like walking more than running. That's just me. You know what? Whatever works for you, I get it. And walking is... there's nothing wrong with walking. You get a lot of exercise. The idea is just doing anything to get you outdoor and get your feet moving, get you going. I used to do a lot of swimming. I didn't run when I was in high school and college and all that. I did a lot of swimming instead. I did endurance swimming, and I had fun doing it until one time when I jumped in a lake in Louisiana, right up amongst a whole bunch of fishermen who were they were fishing all over this place, and I jumped into water. My brother and I jumped in. I don't know if I've told the story before or not. I jumped into water. My brother and I, how old were we? Probably 14 or so. Jumped into water. My dad was in a little John boat, so in case we got tired, we had somewhere to hold on to. We had to do it safe, but it was endurance swimming. So we jumped in amongst all these fishermen. We started swimming back across the lake to where some relatives had a little lake house, and we could see them yelling at us, cheering us on and everything when we jumped into water. We get to the far back to where they are, and we get out. We're so proud of ourselves. It's at that point in time they start yelling at my dad. They start yelling at us, saying, "What were you doing jumping in the water?" We said, "Well, we're trying to swim across the lake. It's a little endurance swim, just to, because we like doing that." And they said, "You didn't worry about all those alligator fishermen that you jumped right in the middle of?" I said, "We didn't know they were alligator fishermen. We just thought they were fishermen." They said, "No, you jumped right where all the alligators live, right in this was a little Oxbow Lake. We jumped right in where all the alligators hang out, apparently." And they said, "Don't do that again." And all I can think is, thank God I was a little bit faster swimming than my brother. So at least if an alligator's going to come up and do a little nibbling, it's going to be nibbling on him and not on me. But I guarantee you want to see someone swimming fast. I would have swum fast that day if I'd seen the alligator in the water there next to me. Yeah, I would have been walking on water. I would have been a brand new miracle worker at that point in time. But just another story. I don't know how I got onto that, but so I like to do swimming in the past, but now I'm starting to run a little bit, and I love doing that. I'm going to try to start doing it again because I need to. Of course, when Big Brother next summer comes up again, it'll probably change all over again. Dolores saying, "Hey Cliff, Amazing Race episode 5 is this week." I'm so excited about Amazing Race. I don't know if all of y'all have been watching it, but I've been watching. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but I'm doing a morning recap on Thursdays after every Amazing Race episode. As much as I've traveled around the world, I love the Amazing Race. So far, everywhere they've been, well, they went to Paraguay, which I haven't been to, but I've been to Bolivia, which is to the north, Argentina to the south. So culturally, there's still a lot that I liked in that episode that I can relate to. I gotta say, for those of you who haven't seen the episode, I'll just fill you in a little bit. But the first thing they had to do when they got to Asuncion, Paraguay, was build a musical instrument out of just recycled trash and old drums and pieces of wood and strings and things like that. It's a really cool idea. I think I would have done well at that challenge. I've always been big into building things, woodworking, growing things like that, and I like following directions. So I think I could have built the musical instrument just fine. But the second half of that challenge or that episode, they had to either balance watermelons. Well, I'm completely adverse to watermelons right now for who knows why. Y'all know. If you watch Big Brother, you know why. I'm not a big fan of watermelons. I'm just kidding with that. But they had to stack watermelons 10 high in a pyramid. Looked easy, but the watermelons just kept rolling the whole time they were doing it, and it was a lot tougher than it looked. The other challenge was doing a dance, a slow dance, but doing a dance while balancing a wine bottle on their head filled with water. I just don't think I've got the skill sets necessary to do a lot of dancing while balancing a wine bottle on my head. Although, I do have a fairly short-haired, flat head. I don't know if it's flat, but I don't know. I think I'd have a hard time with that particular. That would have been hard. I could have done the building the musical instruments after that. Maybe not so much. But yeah, I love Amazing Race, and so I'm having a blast watching that. It is on only once a week, which makes it a little bit easier to do the recaps than when Big Brother was coming on. All right, let's see. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to go back through some of these comments because I was so busy talking. Y'all know how that goes. All right, Lori said the sound was better. Now it was worse. Hopefully it's better again. So I'll work on it, guys. All right, let's see. Let's see. Anthony saying, "Proud of me running." Thank you very much, Anthony. Let's see. Live feeds were addictive. Good or bad, Bright Star saying, so it's good to get that free time back for day life. Absolutely. I agree 100%. What else? And let's see. All right, we're talking about some candy bars and such. Let me do this first. Balin saying, "Your thoughts on CBS pledging Survivor Big Brother cast will now be 50% people of color." That's interesting. I haven't read that story yet. I heard something right before we came on board talk about that. I'd be curious to see how that changes the narrative, the gameplay, and everything. We'll see how it goes. I remember, was it Survivor? Quite a few seasons back, they had 4 different tribes broken up into different ethnicities and all that. So anything that's a new twist on a social experiment, I like seeing. And but man, I'll be curious to see what happens with it, Bailey, and see how that goes. Dolores said they didn't want mine. I had good white chocolate peanut butter cups. Ooh, that sounds pretty good. I would have eaten it. And I certainly, Tiffany, would have eaten candy corn and butter. Oh, Butterfingers are so good. I love my Butterfingers. All right, so I say it. Lori's saying anything but Mounds and Almond Joy. I'm not a big fan of coconuts either, so I tend to agree with you on that, Lori. All right. So let's see. What else? Sorry, guys. I'm just reading through this as we go through. Let's see. You swim. Anthony's saying you swimming is a relaxation more than exercising. Yeah, that's probably true. I don't know. There's something that the solitary. I guess jogging's the same way. Just you get in that water, you can't hear anything. It's just completely you, isolated from everything else. It is a very relaxing type opportunity. Is what I've only discovered. So let's see. Dolores is saying. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to figure these comments out as I do everything else and looking at comments and everything else. Bright Star, you're almost at 5,000 subs, so I want to congratulate you in advance. Yeah, thank you so much. I do appreciate that. I wasn't sure what to think when I started doing those Big Brother recaps. I was just having fun. I just thought, well, I'm going to stay up and watch these recaps every night, no matter what. So I might as well post a little bit, post my own thoughts about it. And then I started talking to friends of mine who said, I can't stay up all night long to watch these. So I started doing it just for some of my friends that were interested in knowing what happened overnight. And next thing you know, you go halfway through and then you got to finish the thing up because you can't stop at that point, right? So now I love doing that. So thank you so much. Did you do Tommy's dance in the house? Lori asked. Yo, are you talking about that flash mob? Yeah, I did it. I was willing to do it. It took me a little bit longer to pick up the steps. And when I watched the replays of it, I may not be quite as smooth as some of the people were. I'm a little more... not robotic, but just a little more stilted in my movements and everything else. But that's all right. I didn't care. While I was in that house, Lori, I was trying to do everything I could to fit in with everyone in that house. Everyone else was younger, and just I had to do what I could to fit in. So if that meant doing some twerking during a fashion show, if that meant doing Tommy's flash mob, I was all for it and happy to do it. But I did have fun doing Tommy's deal. Now, I think y'all saw it on the replay. That's one of the very few things that we actually got to see during a live episode. They showed as a replay of us doing the dance. And that was very strange because that was the very first time on Big Brother where we got to see what we looked like for the cameras and what y'all saw at home. So just for that minute or two when they showed the dancing, we could see and say, oh, there's me. I'm seeing what I look like on the cameras. That was kind of a cool experience. It really hit home that we were on a TV show and there were actually people watching. So that was cool. Balin saying, all right, now Balin, yeah, we got to talk about this. And I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly as well. Top 3 celebrity Big Brother house guests: Tonya Harding, Tiffany Pollard, and Trisha Paytas. And that gets into another topic. I don't know if y'all heard. I just saw it yesterday, the day before. And if the comments already mentioned it, I missed it. I'm sorry, but Celebrity Big Brother 3. There's rumors that Survivor's not going to be around for a little bit because COVID and all that. So without Survivor to premiere in January, there is the rumor that we could have a 3rd season of Celebrity Big Brother, perhaps starting sometime around January or so. All right, that's I'm ready for it, right? I mean, I've heard a little bit of just the idea that maybe they're ready to go. They've already started reaching out to some celebrities. Tonya Harding would be interesting. Neil Patrick Harris is a huge Big Brother fan. I don't know if that means he'd be willing to do it or not, but that'd be pretty funny. Johnny Bananas from The Challenge. I'd heard his name mentioned before. I thought Johnny maybe would come in during my season, season 21, so I wouldn't have been the least bit surprised to have seen him in there. What was funny is Johnny Bananas has been on The Challenge forever, for those of you who don't know, and I've watched The Challenge as well. But I figured if I was in that house and Johnny showed up, no one would expect me to know who he was. So I was going to play it real cool and not act like I had a clue who this guy was. And then in private, try to come up and see if I couldn't work an alliance with him or some kind of relationship or something, knowing who he is and what a good player he was. So I was all ready in case Johnny got in the house, but wasn't to be. But he could do a Celebrity Big Brother version. I mentioned Neil Patrick Harris. Mike Tyson is another name who I've heard about who would be interesting in there. I've also heard Carol Baskin of the Tiger King or someone else from the Tiger King show. You got a lot of different people to pick from, right? So, yeah, I hope they do a Big Brother. Now, for those of you who may or may not know, at the end of our season, Celebrity Big Brother 21, when we're all standing around on the stage right before, they've already announced the winner, they've announced America's Favorite, all of that. We're just kind of talking. I talked to Julie Chen. I said, "Hey, are they doing a big Celebrity Big Brother this winter?" Because obviously I didn't hear since I was in the house, and she said, "No, I think we're going to skip this winter, but probably next winter we'll probably do one." So sounds like maybe that's going to come true. I wasn't expecting it, but it may come true. So that's pretty cool. Amanda Lowe, R.I.P. Alex Trebek. Yeah, I can't say I was completely surprised to lose Alex Trebek because I knew he was dealing with, is it pancreatic cancer? And I know that's a tough type of cancer to be battling. But he was still filming. They say he was filming right up until like a week before he passed. So he fought to the very end. We've watched Jeopardy forever. That was a family deal. We watched Big Brother as a family. We also would watch Jeopardy together a lot. And so I love Jeopardy. We talked last week about, I watched Jeopardy. Someone asked about going on Jeopardy and all that. So yeah, I hated to lose Alex Trebek. The show will continue, but it's just not really going to be the same without him. So yeah, rest in peace. We've lost a lot of people in 2020, right? I'm ready for this freaking year to be over with. So yeah, I hated to see him gone. Who's it? Cindy B. Wouldn't it have been nice to have a cast of 50 and 60 years old? Yeah, it would have worked for me. I think, yeah. It's tough when you feel like a little bit of an outcast, whether that's due to ethnicity, to age, to anything else. If you feel like you're isolated from other people, it makes it tougher to play the game of Big Brother. And so, yeah, it wouldn't have had to been a whole lot of people. If I could have just had another few people that were my age, that would have been a lot of fun. Hey, bring back Donnie and myself and Kevin and Glenn and put a bunch of us old amigos in, and we could have fun in that house. I don't know if we'd win or not, but we'd have fun in that house. All right, let's see. Love my updates. Thank you, Cindy, so much. I appreciate that. Let's see. Hope season 23 is all newcomers. Carl Johnson says, I'm okay with that. As a viewer, I've never really liked seeing vets come back. I always like seeing the newbies. When I came in my house, I was scared to death there were going to be vets in there, especially when they announced that 4 of us were going to be banished on day 1. I think a lot of us thought, 4 people go, bring in 4 vets of some sort or another. I'm glad that, for a lot of reasons, I'm glad that didn't happen. But yeah, so I'd love to see all newbies. Now, if you want to bring back just 1 or 2 vets, hint, CBS, yeah, I'm probably okay with that. But no, I get your drift, Carl. All newcomers is always a lot of fun. Lou W, I miss hearing Cliff Notes. Well, I took a little bit of a break. I said I was going to come in and do it every morning, and I just taken a little bit of break from the stress or from doing Big Brother recaps staying up all night long. But I'm going to get back to doing those at least a few times a week. So just take your time to get some rest, and I'll be back before too long. Ma saying I'm going to watch a flash mob again. Well, okay. You can watch it. You'll see me in the back, and you'll see me doing my corner. It's the best New Jersey you're going to get out of me. But no, I don't watch it. It is fun. Anything that takes time in that house that cuts into the boredom a little bit is fun. So Tommy came up with that. We had our Snapchat goggles, and we did a whole play in the backyard one time. So we tried to do some creative things to pass the time, and the flash mob was one of them. Yeah, I was a little irked to find out after I got out of the house that at one point they did guns up and they did this back and forth. And apparently that was their little inside joke about the 6 shooters and their little alliance. And it was just this ha that we're actually getting all the outsiders to do our little 6 shooters symbolism or whatever as well. I wasn't real happy to see that, but whatever. The game's over. It's not the end of the world. But I found out later that, yeah, they did that a few times with little comments and everything that they caught on to that we didn't have a clue about. Yeah, well. Dolores, what did you think of when you first saw yourself on TV? What did you think? I don't know. I was still so hard playing the game in there at the time. I remember watching the flash mob thinking, gosh, I don't have nearly the rhythm that I think I have or that I thought I have. And that probably is the case in a lot of things. People made fun of, I found out later, they made fun of the way I ran in the house. They made fun of the way I danced while I was in the house. They made fun of all kinds of things of the way I did things while I was in the house. I don't care. Whatever. I am who I am. I own it 100%. So yeah, but when I saw it on TV, it's like, oh, I thought I did. I thought I had a little more rhythm while I was doing that dance, but I was a little rough in my in how I was doing it. But I still did it, right? You know what? As long as you're willing to do it, that's all that matters, I think. Ashley G, you're such an icon. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Uh, and Bright Star saying, great timing to my recaps. Yeah, it was kind of interesting. So many people do these YouTubes. I'm doing one at night. A lot of people do YouTubes at night. Some, not so much in the morning, especially not 15, 20 minutes. I know there's some recaps that are 2.5 hours long and such. I wasn't going to do that, but 15 minutes, Cliff Notes, right? You get it quick and fast, you get the highlights, and you can move on. So I had fun doing it, so thank you so much. I do appreciate that. Chicky D saying, Carol Baskin. Yeah, she did Dancing with the Stars. If she's willing to do that, I could see her inside the Big Brother house. That'd be interesting. I'm sure she would bring in a lot of viewers. So now I don't know, since she did Dancing with the Stars and that's on ABC, I don't know if that creates any issues, contracts, or I don't know how that stuff works, but who knows. All right, so what else do we have going on? If they have Carol Mike, very interesting. Yeah, it could be a lot of fun. Reach out to CBS. Let them know you're interested. Somehow, Dolores, I think that I would think that they know who. Well, first of all, I think they make the calls. They decide who they want back in the house or not, and they make the calls to you versus the other way around. I think that's the way it works. But yeah, I need to holler him. Maybe I'll just send them. Make sure to send them Christmas cards and put my big old smiling face on their front and say, "Hey, just in case you're curious." Let's see. Yeah, Jeopardy. I hate to see it, but I'm glad that it's so cool. Trivia, and I mentioned last week, there's some categories I do so well and others not so much in. But just the whole idea that I love that there's an intellectual game show. That you actually answer, you're rewarded for your knowledge, and so that's what's cool. I was a kid. We played Trivial Pursuit growing up, which isn't as common as it used to be because everything's on Alexa and Siri and all of that. But old age board game Trivial Pursuit, and I played that forever. I had a blast doing it. All right, let's see what else. Carol Wagon. I would try it if they had older contestants. Try it anyway. Hey, what do you have to lose? If you make it onto the show, fantastic. If you don't make it on the show, it's still a cool journey. If you make it onto the show, you go in knowing that you may be a huge target. Your time may be limited in that house because of that. So what? And it's easy for me to say. If I'd gone home on day number one, I would have been so irritated. That would not have been the way I wanted my story to end. But it is what it is. And it just made it an extra bit of a challenge for me to try to survive, knowing that I was the only older person in there, and there was so much disparity between my life and experiences and everything as opposed to everyone else that was inside that house. There wasn't anyone else in the house that was alive when Sesame Street premiered. I guarantee that. So yeah, go for it anyway. What do you have to lose? All right, let's see. Loved your daily updates. Have you considered doing a season ranking video of your personal favorite Big Brother seasons? Ooh, that's interesting, Nathan. No, I haven't considered it, but maybe I could. What I'd like to do one of these days is go back and watch a lot of the older seasons, because when I first started watching, I wasn't as into it. I mean, I watched all the episodes, but there wasn't the same amount of analysis. It would be fun to go back now and look at some of those earlier seasons and see some of the things that changed in terms of strategy, but also things that changed in terms of what was permissible, what we laughed at, what we thought was fun. Yeah, Big Brother season 8. There were some things that happened during that season, some animosities and some arguing and fighting and all that. I don't think it'd be tolerated nowadays in this current day and age. Things back then people ignored more than they ignore now. So it'd be interesting to go back and watch some of those old seasons and rank them and all. Yeah, so maybe I'll consider that, Nathan. That's a good thought. Let's see. Carol said, I think it'd be hard because we're all smarter, harder workers and not wanting everything handed to us. Yeah, I was willing to fight for everything. I wasn't going to give up in there, and I didn't go into that house thinking I was going to just do whatever and then come out as an influencer and all. I was there to play the game. But there were other people. That wasn't just staged. I was not the only one. There were other people that were in there to play the game as well, and there were people that definitely fought. That's what was so cool. There were 16 people, so many so much diversity in terms, not just, we're not talking ethnicity, just diversity in terms of where you live, what you've done in the past, all so many different people in a house that you had to try to interact with. Carl saying a question: if Nicole won the final veto instead of Mickey, how would that change you in the other games? Well, if Nicole had won that final veto, it was interesting because normally the person who wins the final veto decides who goes to the final three. Because Nicole was HOH, that wouldn't have been the case. She still wouldn't have voted. But what would have happened is Mickey and Holly would have stayed on the block instead of me, and so one of the two of them would have gone home. And Nicole and I had already talked. I'd made some promises to Mickey saying, "Oh, I'm gonna keep you if you agree to keep me," and all that. But the reality is, you can't keep someone that's that strong, that powerful. So if Nicole had won the veto, I would have been the only vote, and I would have sent Mickey home. It would have been Nicole and Holly and myself. If Nicole or myself had won the final three competitions, we would have drug each other. And I think one or the other of us could have beat Holly. I feel comfortable about our knowledge of the house and days and things like that. I think Holly only missed one question though in the final two, so it's not she's no slouch when it comes down to it. But I think there was a good chance that Nicole and I could have made final two, but we just didn't win that last veto. We were that close and it didn't quite work out. It's what happens. It's the way you play the game. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. God, it was so hot that day. Yeah, I was so exhausted. That was the worst, toughest competition I've ever competed in. It killed me. Yeah, almost literally. Not quite literally, but it was a tough competition for me. All right, let's see. What else? Mickey says no longer the same person. I saw a little bit of Mickey's been doing some things, talking about changes and all that. You know what? We all are here to grow and evolve, whether you play a game show or not. So the more power to Mickey. I haven't talked to him in a little while, but I was glad to see that out there. So that was pretty cool. Anthony, when you were targeting Jack when you were HOH, why did Cliff's Angels not go along with your plan? Well, I don't know. I really thought as soon as I won HOH, Anthony, I told Kat and Jessica, I think I told everyone, say, if you've already been nominated, you're not being nominated this week. I'm not doing that to y'all. We need to work together. And I really almost thought that we had the consensus to make it work to go after Jack. But then as I found out later, Kat was working with Mickey and Holly. You know, she knew Holly, and so they were tight. Jessica was trying to get in with Christy, and so they were a little tight. And Nick and Bella, I knew they felt betrayed by the rest of that alliance, but I also had seen them talking so much and trying so hard to get back in with that alliance and try to smooth things over. Sam thought he was kind of the number 9 out of that alliance, so he was trying to preserve his place. Everyone was so worried about that big alliance and trying to do everything they could not to make themselves a bigger target that I just didn't know that I had the votes at the end of that thing. If it hadn't been for Christie's Diamond Power veto, whatever it's called, I think that was it. If it hadn't been for that, I think we still would have had the votes because I could have named someone else within that alliance. So they would have had to choose between one or the other. But with Christy having the potential to then turn around and put someone else up on the block, she could have put Nicole up. She could have put a lot of different people up. That alliance would have all voted against her. And so I was pretty certain I didn't have the votes to get Jack out, and it killed me because I wanted Jack out. I saw him as the linchpin for that whole alliance, and I just couldn't make it work. So at that point in time, knowing it wasn't going to work, I just had to do what I could to save my own life, to protect myself for at least a few weeks, which is what I did. I knew if I could just survive for a little while, eventually that alliance would fall apart, and I did. So, and I stuck around long enough for it. But yeah, I really wanted Jack out that week, and I just couldn't make it happen. Let's see. Sorry, guys, as I march through here a little bit more. Christmas cards, great idea. Yeah, I'll send Christmas cards. Maybe I'm the only one that sends out Christmas cards still, but we still send them out, so we'll continue to do that. Cliff, have you seen the COVID-friendly reality show called The Circle on Netflix? Oh, yeah, I've watched that one. I love The Circle. In fact, after it was over, I reached out to several of the the circle contestants from last season and talk to some of them. Joey, he's so cool up in Jersey, but then Shuban was one of my favorites, and Chris is from the Dallas area where I grew up. So yeah, I love watching the circle. That would be a lot of fun to see. I guess they're coming up with another season. I haven't heard that much about it. Carol said I couldn't deal with the younger one. Several times this year I wanted to scream snap out of it. Oh yeah, there were times or two when it was a little frustrating for me in that house with a lot of younger ones. I said I don't want to continue talking about habits in the bathroom. I don't want to talk about popping pimples. I sure don't want to see it. There were certainly some disconnects between what I appreciated and enjoyed versus a lot of the other people in the house. But hey, it just made the challenge that much more interesting. Amanda's saying, wish they would do public tours of the house. Oh, that would be so much fun. I would love it. I would absolutely love it. Whether I go back on the show again as a contestant somewhere down the road or not, I mean, it'd be cool. But even if I don't, I want to go back and just get permission to walk around the outside and behind the mirrors and see the way the rest of that house is set up. Because here's something else that y'all may not know. There was a time or two when we had to be led out of the house to do, like when I was evicted. Afterwards, I actually had to come back in for just a very brief moment to do some stuff in the diary room for that very last competition, answering the trivia questions that Mickey and Holly did. So I was led back into the diary room from outside just to do that quick little deal. We never got to see what was outside. We had to wear blindfolds, hold on to people's shoulders. We just never, same way when we were led into the house at the beginning of the season. So I don't know anything about what it looks like on the outside. So I would love to come back in and see the inner workings of the Big Brother house. That would be so much fun. TJ saying, is there a rule that after every nomination, the house guests have to hug each other? I know if I was nominated, I probably wouldn't want to hug, especially from the HOH. No rule whatsoever. And in fact, we've seen, remember Cody Nixon from a few seasons back, who he just stepped across the table and he kept on walking. And so, yeah, you don't always have everyone hugging each other, but so much of that game is about relationships. And obviously, when you get to the jury on, you want to give people hugs if you're still playing the game. You want to try to stay on good terms with the person that you just evicted. Now, does that person want to hug you back? Well, no, not always, and sometimes we see differently. But I don't know. I always, all I can speak for is myself, and I knew I was getting ready to get evicted, even when I was blindsided on that 6-4 vote against Nicole. Even at that point in time, I'd spent so much time saying I'm going to separate the emotion from the game. So I felt like it would have been really hypocritical to then not go out trying to be nice and friendly to everyone. So I still gave everyone hugs, and I was fine with it. It's just a game. But no, there's no rule about it. And occasionally someone gets a little mad and walks out. And sometimes they don't hug anyone. Sometimes it almost has more impact when they hug everyone except for one or two people. And they make it clear that, yeah, you're on my bad list. And I'm on a jury, so you better be thinking about that as well. Chewing with the mouth open was the worst for me. I didn't see a name attached to that, Carol, but I'm guessing I can. Well, there were a few people in the house that did that. Yeah, and I didn't. You know what's funny is I didn't notice it while I was in the house. Yeah, maybe I just ignored it, but I didn't even really think about it until I got out of the house, and then I saw some of the shows. It's like, oh my gosh, keep your mouth closed, guys, while y'all are eating. But you know what? You learn to accept a lot. That's part of the game itself. All right. Bright Star saying it's truly amazing how they make the house look so different every season. It was so cool waiting to go into that house to actually see what the theme was going to be for my season. Now, I'll give you one more little insider. I mentioned that we were never able to see the outside workings of the house and everything. When we did our media, I don't know if you recall, but we did our interviews with Jeff Schroeder in the diary room. And so that was one of the situations where we were blindfolded and led into the diary room. And then once inside, they took the blindfolds off, and there's Jeff, and we do our interview. They blindfolded us right back as we walked out, and so you didn't get to see anything, except the person I was with took a little too long, didn't put my blindfold on as soon as I walked in. And so for just a second, I could see a bunch of wood as I looked down this one hallway. And so immediately I spent the next day or two before we went in the house thinking, oh, wonder what the theme is on this house. Wonder if it could have something to do with woods or whatever. Well, as it turns out, it was camp, and it kind of was like that. So I got my first little taste of what the theme was going to be, but that's all I knew was maybe it has something to do with that. But yeah, every year they do something different. I like our theme. I know some people complain, but I love that camp theme with wood everywhere. And our HOH, I was just such a fantastic HOH room, just very relaxing. So I loved all of that. Balin, Cliff, were you ever starstruck with former house guest lightning bolts would hit me if Ika, yeah, if I met Ika Wong? That was so cool. Jeff Schroeder, meeting him, because I knew Jeff well. I mean, not personally, but I'd seen so many seasons. I knew, yeah, meeting him was incredibly cool. And then Ika, I didn't realize until I was let in and they said, you're going to be interviewing with Ika Wong from Entertainment Canada. And I knew she'd been on a past season. And yeah, I was a little starstruck. And then we see Julie the first day we go in the house. I certainly felt like suddenly I was in the big league. Suddenly it was starting to feel a lot more real when I was starting to meet some of these people. I still do it. We had our finale wrap party, and a lot of the contestants, the house guests from season 20 were there. And I was seeing them like, oh my God, yeah, Fessy, Haley, JC, Rachel, all the season 20 and other seasons were there. I met Tyler and Casey and Angela. And yeah, it's been incredibly cool. Every time I meet some former house guest, and I've met people from other reality shows. Russell Hantz and I went to a Survivor viewing party together and talked reality TV, and Karishma from Survivor as well, and Carl Boudreaux. So, yeah, it is cool being part of the Big Brother family. I will certainly say that. Brittany, thank you so much for catching me live. I appreciate it. I never know how hard it's going to be to get notifications out for people to see the show and everything else. So thank you so much. Who is it? During Aiden saying during live eviction vote, are house guests allowed to talk to each other while people are voting? No talking is allowed whatsoever. You're not supposed to be campaigning. You're not supposed to be saying anything at all. We are supposed to be extremely quiet and not say a word. And for the most part, we did that. Every once in a while, you'd hear someone trip or someone would yeah, something's going on in diary room, and we'd all kind of snicker and things like that. But for the most part, we followed the rules, and we were quiet and didn't do anything except just sit there and wait for our time to vote. That was an intense. Even when we knew who was going home, or we thought we knew who was going home, that was always still a very serious moment for us, because we knew that someone's Big Brother dream was ending, and whether you were aligned with them or not, it's still you empathize with them. At least I did. I think most people did. So we treated it very seriously. It was that was the one time during the week where we weren't messing around. It was a very serious deal. Angie saying, how much do they prepare you for the experience before Big Brother starts? Not so much, Angie. And I don't know if I can go in a lot of detail. I'm still under contract with CBS, and we got all kinds of non-disclosures and things like that. But there's not a lot to say. There's a lot of things they do, psychological testing, visiting with psychologists, things like that. Just make sure you're crazy enough to go on the show, but not so crazy that you shouldn't be on the show. But there's not a lot of preparation. Now, we get sequestered, and we saw this season where they were sequestered for 2 weeks before the show started. Even in a regular season, we were basically locked away in a sequester spot for about a week before the show started. So I suppose in some ways that's preparing you for the isolation from the outside world and such. But beyond that, not a lot of preparation. There's a lot of things. There's, rules are read to us, about what it's going to be like in the house. And we're told about microphones and cameras all the time, all the stuff that is fairly basic for anyone who's ever seen the show. But beyond that, you just kind of let loose once you get inside. All right, let's see. What else? Carl Johns, I wonder if COVID-19 will get a vaccine before the end of the school year in May. Sounded like it. I can't remember the company, but they just announced today that they're like 90% effective, the vaccine they've got working. So we may be getting closer. I hope so. I'm ready for this to be over with. Thanks for sharing your knowledge with us. I am happy to do it, Valerie. Thank you so much for letting me share my knowledge and my chat and everything else with you. I always appreciate that. And Thomas, I mentioned the Celebrity Big Brother 3 a little bit earlier. I'm happy to see if we get Big Brother 3. It makes sense. They've shown they can do it once. The key is, can they get celebrities that are willing to do it, given such weird situations that we've got now. But hopefully come January, things have still settled down enough that there's people willing to do it. That would be fun. It's going to be fun trying to figure out who may go on that show or not. Bright Star, was Diary Room always available for the house guests at all times, or they kept you in rotation for Diary Room sessions? The Diary Room sessions that y'all normally see, where we're talking on TV episodes and all, most of that, you would get called in for the Diary Room. It's not like you just arbitrarily say, I'm going to go in and do this or that. All the time. And 24 hours a day, there were possibilities that you would get called into the Diary Room. I tended to go to bed a little earlier than other people, and I tended to get up a little bit earlier. And so I think Big Brother, recognizing that, would sometimes call me in, not as much late at night. They'd call me in the morning sometimes because they knew I was already showered and bright-eyed, bushy-tailed and all that. So they tried to work with your schedule a bit. But sometimes, you get called in at 2 in the morning because there was some little extra explanation they needed for something. But with that being said, yeah, the Diary Room was pretty much open 24 hours a day. Now, obviously, if someone else is already in there, then you have to wait for them to get through. But the rest of the time, if I wanted to go in there and just say, hey, I really would love it if I could get some more milk because we're out in the refrigerator, that'd be fantastic. Or if I wanted to go in there and say, I just have to get away from everyone for a few minutes and, because this is driving me crazy. Hey, Big Brother never had a problem letting you just sit in there and talk and spill your guts. And sometimes if you didn't want to, you could just talk away and that was it. Other times, if you came in there on your own, but there was something obviously going on, there'd be people, the producers saying, hey, tell us what's going on. What are you thinking right now? And they kind of prod you along with questions to get to the heart of maybe why you were in there in the first place. But yeah, for 99% of the time, the Diary Room was available if you needed it. So yeah, we do have that. All right, let's see. Brian Hoster, what was the toughest part while you were going through the interview process before you went in the house? Yeah, and Brian, I saw you send a question earlier asking about the casting process, and I can't go into a lot of detail, but I tried out at an open casting call in Houston. Just showed up, talked to the producers and the casting people, and they told everyone, they said, all right, this was on Saturday. If you haven't heard from us by 9 o'clock tomorrow on Sunday, then that means, we'll probably didn't pick you, but try again next year. All right. So I sat there, what do you think the chances are that you're actually going to get called? You kind of wish, but in reality, you figure it's probably not going to happen. So I sat there on Sunday night, trying not to really think about it. 9 o'clock comes and goes. It's like, all right. Well, it was fun trying out anyway, just to say I did it. Probably 10 minutes later, the phone rings. And it's a producer saying, we'd like to talk to you a little bit more. And so I did that. I went back. I did some interviews, talked to some people. And again, I can't get into a lot of details, but over the next few months, take pictures, send in videos, a whole lot of information about who you are as a person so they can get to know you. And next thing you know, I'm on the show. What was the toughest part? I don't know, Brian. You have to go with the program. You have to just give up this idea that you got any privacy, and you just have to say, all right, just tell me what you want to know. I'm an open book. I'll tell you everything about me, and I'll tell you this part, Brian. All right, this is the toughest part for me. Obviously, people who are trying to figure out who they want on the show want to know as much as they can about you, and that includes a whole lot of pictures. So there were a lot of requests for, hey, Cliff, send us pictures of you and let us know just what your life's about. I'm a dad. When I take pictures, I don't take pictures of me. I'm not of the selfie generation. I don't take pictures of me. I take pictures of my wife and my kids. And so as I started looking through all my photos, I realized that I don't have a whole lot of pictures of me. And if I do, it's posing with my family or anything. But beyond that, I just don't have the same level of pictures that people from different generations do. So that was probably my toughest part, was trying to find enough pictures to kind of match up with what I was being asked to provide. That was always a little interesting. All right, let's see what else. Anthony, if you watch feeds a lot, you get called in a lot. Oh, yeah. Some people will get called in. I swear, I think some people got called in the middle of the night just because. Just to play with them a little bit. And here's the thing. If you want someone that's in a irritated, mad mood for an episode, if you want someone who thinks they're getting ready to be targeted by some alliance, do you call them in right after they had dinner while they've been having fun playing games with everyone else? Or do you call them in the middle of the night where they woke up, they're grumpy, they don't have their makeup on and everything else? Yeah, you call them in the middle of the night, and then you get a little more irritated person, which maybe fits the narrative a little bit more. So I think there's always a little bit more rhyme and reason than even we thought about in terms of when people were called, and the reasons they were called at specific times. I just think so. Aiden saying, how nervous were you when you were banished? I don't know. I was numb. Nervous isn't the right word. Numb is the right word. It was a blindside. 7:55. All right, we'll get through this quick. It was a blindside. I kind of didn't know it was coming, but I kind of did, because suddenly for the last few hours, people wouldn't look me in the eye. I kept seeing people go into the archery room and talking, and when they came out, they would go out of their way to avoid talking to me or going where I was sitting or standing. That's never a good sign. So I suspected something was going on. And then right before we went to the live show and everything, Tommy was sitting next to me, and he kind of put his hand on my thigh, and he tried to look at Nicole and I, but he was looking me in the eye. He said, guys, I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry that we're in this position. And the way he was looking at me, I knew it was me right then and there, that I was probably the one going home. So nervous, I don't know. I was just, at that point, all of a sudden, it's just like, oh, really? Golly, you're really? So I was just kind of numb to it at that time. When Mickey sent me home, when I was voted out fourth, I knew it was going to happen. I didn't hold out any hope he was going to keep me over Holly. So I had time to prepare for that one. So there wasn't that much nerves. Now, some people, it's not as much being blindsided or evicted. It's just that you give a speech, and you're giving it before millions of people watching on TV, and it's live. So there were people that really got very nervous about their speeches and what they were going to say and not wanting to mess up and all that. And it wasn't a big deal for me. I knew what I kind of wanted to say, but I didn't spend a lot of time practicing. I just would focus on talking to Julie or my family back home, and not thinking about how many other people were watching. And so that was more the nerves than the actual getting blindsided or evicted for a lot of people, I think. Spoof69, would you play again? Absolutely. If I had a chance, I would. And what's this? Lauren saying, what's your favorite downtime game to play in the house? Well, for me, it's got to be backgammon. I was the only one who knew how to play backgammon when we came into that house, and I taught Nicole and Ovi how to play, and eventually we taught some other people. And I think by the end, pretty much everyone played backgammon or knew how to play. I don't know that Holly ever really played that much, but pretty much everyone else did. So that was my favorite downtime game for certain. Let's see, what else? Carol, if truly impressed when you play, I was proud how you developed relationships with the young ones. Thank you so much. Stay true to yourself. I tried to. I was trying to represent my family and trying to play the game as best I could. And I've said before on this show and elsewhere, an imperfect guy playing an imperfect game. Yeah, I did the best I could. I didn't always play 100%, but that's okay. I accept that. I certainly tried. So thank you for the support. I appreciate it. All right, let's see. Sorry, guys. I got behind on these comments. I try every week to stay up with these comments, and I just can't quite do it. Y'all know I should do a season with all winners just so we can have a 2-time winner, maybe cut down 16 people. The problem with that, Carl, I don't think they have enough winners who are willing to come back to make 16 people. I think it's just too... Survivor has 2 seasons a year. Big Brother only has 1. So it makes it tough to get enough people for if you only go with the winners edit. So I don't know if we'll get that anytime soon. Bright Star as a BB fanatic, this is nice. We're literally getting the big experience as if we were in the house. I was a fan way before I was a house guest, so I always appreciated the house guests who would give a little insight to it, and so I am happy to do the same thing, Bright Star. Thank you so much. Disney Danielle, howdy. If you had to be in any game show other than Big Brother, what would it be? Spoo69 is saying. It would have to be Amazing Race or Survivor. Either one would be so much fun. I'd love to do either one of those. Dads do be missing in photos because they take a picture, right, Bright Star? I laughed before. I never actually saw my kids do anything live because I always had a camera in front of me recording it. So I would always be focused on the video, and then I'd get to watch it later when we got back home. That's part of being a dad, recording all that stuff. Did you get to the point where you missed your family so much it was unbearable, Lawrence said? Yeah, a little bit. I certainly missed them. In some ways, the first couple of weeks were the toughest, and then I kind of got adjusted to it. And then the very end, when I knew I was going to be seeing them soon, it started. I started getting excited, and when I got excited, it became difficult to wait just that much longer. But yeah, it helped knowing that the cameras are on me, and even though I couldn't hear them, I knew they were watching me. So it's not as though we didn't have communication going on. It's just all one-sided. thank God they like listening to me talk, because I was having to do all the talking in that particular relationship. But yeah, there were certainly times where when I won HOH and I saw their pictures, that was cool. That was a nice refresher for me, but it was tough at the end of the week when I had to get the photos up and everything and go back to not having them right there with me. But they were with me, even though not there physically. All right. Bright Star, thank you. 5,000 subscriptions. I am very proud of that. I appreciate that. I thank y'all so much for all the support. I always appreciate that. All right, let's see. How hard is it to form the alliance, the First Days Alliance? Will Scat ask. Well, it's hard. It's especially hard when you're a little different from everyone else. You stand out. With me, it's because of age. It was even harder because I was banished on day one, which meant, first of all, that kind of immediately cast me as an underdog. It's not part of the main group that I was a target in the very beginning. So that was hard. The other part that y'all may not realize is because I was banished, y'all saw us do that maze through the forest. It was all dark and all that. And yeah, it made for good TV. But what y'all don't realize is that probably took 3 or 4 hours to do. We were drug out of the house. We had to sit around, wait until it was time to do the competition. So that was 3 or 4 hours on the very first day that I wasn't in that house establishing connections and relationships. And that's huge. That is gigantic. It really made a huge difference. And so when I finally got back in the house, I immediately approached Mickey and said, look, people are going to think I'm going to come after you. They're going to think we're mad at each other because you banished me. It's a perfect situation for me to work with you close because no one's ever going to suspect it. And so there's some things I did like that as soon as I got back in to try to establish relationships. But it certainly put me behind the 8 ball because I missed so much time in that first day. All right, guys, it is 8:01, so I'm going to shut it down here in just a second. Brittany saying you inspired me to learn backgammon. Thank you. Ian, Terry, and myself, I think, are the 2 biggest backgammon aficionados that have been in the house for the last couple of seasons. So I had a lot of fun doing it. I'm glad they had that in there and I had fun teaching other people how to play backgammon and everything else. All right. Does Mickey keep in touch with you? Chris G says, I keep in touch with all of the house guests to some degree. I really don't talk to a whole lot of my occasional text messaging and things like that. Some more than others, obviously. Mickey's one of those. Every once in a while, we'll talk to each other. But you know how it goes. Life goes on, and there's people busy doing different things. But yeah, I would love to stay in touch with all 15 of my fellow house guests. Do I? No. There's a few I talk to a lot less than others do. But no, I'd love to stay in touch. We went through a shared experience. So yeah. All right. Guys, thank y'all so much for joining in. Thank you for finding me. I know it's not always easy. Now, for those of you who found me that aren't subscribed to my channel, if you subscribe to my channel and turn on your notifications, it'll send out alerts, 30 minutes before the show or something like that. So there are things you can do to help, and I appreciate if you do that. But for those of you who don't, I try to do this. I'm going to try to continue to do this every Monday night, 7 Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, and I appreciate it. This is just so much fun getting to answer all y'all's questions as opposed to just talking on my own. I'm happy to answer all the questions I can as much as possible. So thank y'all for the support. I appreciate it. And guys, I will see y'all next week. For any of you I didn't answer your questions, it's probably just because I missed them because I can't read as fast as they come up there. So I apologize. Hit me up on DM, either Instagram or Twitter. I'll be happy to answer your questions offline as well, or save it for next week, either one. But guys, y'all have a fantastic Monday. Now, keep this in mind. Friday the 13th, for those of you who are a little superstitious, be careful on Friday because it is one of those kind of days. But guys, y'all have a fantastic week. Stay safe the entire week long. I will be back on Monday, and I will see y'all then. I'll be putting out a recap on the Amazing Race Thursday morning as well, so check that out if you haven't already. Y'all have a great one, guys. SKD 143. Y'all have a fantastic week. Cheers, my friends. Bye.